Good afternoon, boys and girls. Welcome to my very first episode of Uncle Brian's Consulting. I am your consultant, Uncle Brian, and today I want to talk about moving on post-divorce. What does that look like for the average man? And I say man because women do suffer a little bit, but in the end, when ink comes down on your divorce decree, when the judge finally signs off, determines the marriage is not savable. It's over. Both man and both husband and wife cannot come to terms or agree on staying married. When the final decree comes out, and when the final tally comes out, because for men, divorce is not only is it emotional, but it has an economic toll on men, whereas it doesn't have any economic toll on women. Things to keep in mind when it comes to divorce is family law is more favored towards your soon-to-be ex-wife than you. Your ex-wife is backed by the state. Men aren't backed by the state. We have a burden to perform. It's always been that way for hundreds and hundreds of years. Men have done the hard work. Men have gone on the front lines to fight and defend our country, where women really haven't had to do that. And so when it comes down to divorce and division of assets and spousal support, that system tends to favor more favorably towards women than it does to men. So I want to gear this video more towards men, because I think in the end we do suffer more in divorce than women do. And so, as I mentioned earlier, just moments ago, about women having the backing of the state, well, that's true. When your divorce decree comes down, you'll also know before the final decree comes out what you have to pay in alimony, child support, your division of assets, all that stuff you'll know beforehand, and it's stuff that has to be agreed upon before you get your final decree, which I have in my little gold envelope here. And I refer to it from time to time. If I have questions, I can go to that and typically get my answers on how I handle child custody and stuff related to my kids for the most part. But anyways, when I was married for 19 years, a little over 19 years, probably 19 and a half, give or take, when my wife and I decided to divorce. And so now I've been I've been divorced now just under 2. And so I was kind of fortunate in my situation. I was able to recover quickly, not only just emotionally, but financially. The only thing I pay to my ex-wife is child support for our 2 sons. I have a senior in high school and an 8th grader. So all I pay is child support. She didn't want alimony. She didn't want half my 401k, and she wasn't greedy on our marital assets, which was kind of helpful. Her and I were able to work all that out amongst the 2 of us. And so from the time we announced that we were divorced, and it was the middle of July 2020, and I had a final decree in my hand that November. So roughly 3 to 4 months, we'd worked through the divorce, and we didn't have to work hard on it. It was, we decided we're divorcing. Okay, let's just get this done so we can both go our separate ways and not fight over anything. And we didn't have hardly any debt. I've got my truck and the payment that comes with it. She got her student loan and the payments that go with it. She got to keep the house. My future plans hopefully don't involve staying in my little town in Nebraska for much longer, but she got the house. I got a handful of belongings. I obviously got to keep my truck, my motorcycle, my boat. I've got 1 couch. I got TV and stand. I got bed and dresser upstairs in my room. I ended up renting a little 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath townhome. It's cozy for me. I mean, it's just me here most of the time. I have my boys here a couple days every other week for 2 days. So I'm like an every other weekend dad. But one of the things I did to help me move on was financially, I had to start running my own budget. When I was married, the wife was the accounting major, and so she managed the day-to-day banking. I hardly ever did. If I needed something or wanted to buy something, I could go log on to our banking website and see what the balance was before I bought anything. But I had to kind of relearn how to manage my own money, which right now I'm doing very well at. I have a budget, and that's one thing you need to create is you got to create a budget, because when the ink settles and the ink dries on that decree, you're gonna have, if both you and the wife worked, you just lost that other share of income. So now you're down to one income, whereas before you had two incomes. And so you've lost a good third to maybe half of the household income by divorce. And so now she, obviously she's lost your share. So now she's got to live on her income just as you got to live on your own. So it's important for a man to create a budget, stick to it. I mean, I stick to my budget really, really tight. I mean, I'm frugal. I spend a hell of a lot less than I make. And so I run a tight budget. If there's things I need, I get. A lot of my wants don't get fulfilled because like a want is an option to me. I want a lot of things, but I don't have to have them today. But I do need food in my mouth. I need clothes on my back. I need a roof over my head. And I need reliable transportation. So those four needs are what I fulfill before I start diving into the want list of things I want. That list is, we all have a want list that's forever long, it seems like. So budget. Second thing I did was, and I've always been doing this, for the last 6-8 years, I've been going to the gym. So I've been going to the gym well before I got divorced. It wasn't something I just decided to do when I got divorced. It was something I decided I needed to do as I got older. It was probably my mid-late 30s when I decided to get back in the gym, because I was starting to get flabby, starting to feel a little weak. And, you get older, your testosterone goes down. And so that affects your physical health, your mental health. And so I decided, years ago to get back in the gym. So I've been doing that. I picked up books, and I've been reading books. I read more self-help books. I don't read to entertain myself per se, but I read to enrich my mind, to educate myself more. I like to be a guy that can pivot here, pivot there, be a man that offers a lot to my community as well as to myself. And so that was another thing I did. I didn't go to counseling. I didn't feel like I needed to. Like I said, I've got a small group of friends, and those few that have kind of reached out to say, hey, how you been doing? That's good enough for me. Like a buddy check-in kind of deal. How's Brian doing today? He's going through divorce. How's he? Get a lot of, I'm so sorry to hear that. How you doing? How you been? Kind of deal. And that's been enough for me. Granted, I've lost all my marital friends, the friends that when I was married, when the wife and I were married, friends that we had out in our neighborhood, we'd go do fire pit with a few drinks on the weekend or weekday. Whenever all the husbands were home at the same time, we'd get together and do a fire pit and have a few drinks, conversation, laugh, just have a good time, adult stuff. I don't have those guys anymore. When I got divorced, never heard a word from them. No one said, hey Brian, how you doing? Are you doing all right? Do you need to talk? Do you will lose, you'll more than likely lose all your marital friends. The friends that you had while you were married, they'll be gone. More than likely they'll be gone. Unless they're a true friend, hey, they just because they're married, they won't forget about their buddy that was married. So just be prepared for a period of time where you're going to feel lonely. But in a sense, just because you're alone doesn't mean you should feel lonely. I mean, still got a few married friends. I've got unmarried friends that I can reach out to, or they reach out to me and I get together with them. So keep a good social network of people that will help you. Like I said, I didn't really need the encouragement, didn't need, like I said, my experience with divorce is a lot different than other people's experience. My experience with divorce was a lot different than my dad's experience, because my mom and dad divorced. Oh, my brother and I were out of the house growing up and doing our own thing when my mom and dad got divorced. But my experience is different than his, and my experience is different than my brother from another mother's experience. So everybody has a different experience, but at the end of the day, you need to make sure you get on your finances, make sure you get your finances right, reduce your spending. From the time you announce your divorce till the time you get your decree, you shouldn't be spending any money, because you never know what's going to come down the pike at you. You should be working and then making sure your needs are met, roof over your head, clothes on your back, reliable transportation. All, your needs have to be met before you dive in your life. And your needs are what's going to be most important from the time you and your soon-to-be ex decide you're divorced. And until that decree gets here, you shouldn't be doing nothing. Your life should be on hold until the damage is assessed and what you're going to have to end up paying. My soon-to-be ex hired a lawyer, and I offered to help pay for this lawyer, that she can represent both of us, play like a mediator type role. But she, no, I'll pay for it, I got it. I said, okay, fine, you got it. So I didn't hire a lawyer, didn't feel I needed to, and to this day, I felt like I made the right decision, felt like I didn't need to hire one. So I go with that choice. I went with that choice. So, and granted, some divorces can go on for 6, 8 months to a year, if not longer. I've known guys to fight it out with their ex-wife over things for a year plus. So, I advise you divorce fast. The time my wife and I didn't have much debt, we had the house, I had truck payment, and she had student loan. That was it. And we had a credit card that was paid for every month, so we didn't carry much of a rotating balance on any unsecured credit. So when it come down to it, we had sat down, this is what I want, this is what she wants. Of course, I didn't want a whole lot, because I'm looking at making a relocation somewhere else in the country, so I didn't want to have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm going to have to repack up and move when that time comes. So I'm happy with what little I got. I've kind of taken on like a minimalist type role in my life, where I don't need a whole lot of stuff. That's kind of how I've decided to live my life. I don't want a whole lot or need a whole lot of material things. Like I said, as long as my needs are met, I don't necessarily need the wants per se. I got a long list of wants. We all do. But when you're moving on post-divorce, you are literally in a rebuilding phase of your life. If you took any financial hit, like, you got come down and now you owe child support, you owe alimony, and now you have to get a hold of your 401k holder to bust apart your 401k, because now you have to owe half of that to an ex-wife, and she kicks you out of the house with nothing but the clothes on your back. So now you're in a rebuilding stage of life, where now you got to put yourself as number one, and everything else, including kids, have to ride in the back seat of life at that time. So with that being said, I wouldn't wish divorce on anybody, but it is a viable option if you can work it out with your ex or soon-to-be ex. But nowadays, people get themselves in a lot of entanglements. We're talking a lot of debt, being especially, debt is hard to untangle from. When you owe thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to Peter, every day you're trying to rob, you owe that to Paul, you're trying to rob Peter to pay Paul every day. That also makes a divorce that much more difficult. So if you're looking at possibly getting divorced, make sure your all your affairs are in order before you make that kind of move. I mean, start planning, get it in your head, mental preparation, get it in your head. Start thinking about what life is going to look like after being married, what it's going to look like post-divorce. Like I said, everybody's experience is different. Believe me, I've talked to guys that are in a lot worse position than I am, a lot. And then there's a few that I know that are in a better position. My brother from another mother I mentioned earlier got divorced. I want to say probably 10, 11 years ago, maybe. God, it hasn't been that long. Time goes by fast. But anyway, he's got 50-50 custody of his kids, and he doesn't pay child support. So there are situations where that does happen. But if you're a guy that's thinking about or has got the big D thrown on him, don't bank on everything being fair, because it won't be fair. I mean, I felt like I got a fair deal. Like I said, I'm one in a few. I feel lucky. Every day I wake up, I feel lucky. I can get up and do the things I want to do when I want, where I want. I don't owe anything to anybody. I don't have to check in and out with anybody. I'm literally a free man. And that's a good feeling to have. That's one of the perks of being divorced, is once the dust settles and everything is hashed out, there's a whole new freedom there. Whole new freedom you got. Peace, quiet, and freedom, as Coach Craig Adams would say. And so, yeah. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.